Godzilla vs. Blade. The vampire hunter takes on the monster. Hey everyone, picture this. The sun sets over a sprawling city skyline, but tonight feels different. Ominous storm clouds roll in, casting eerie shadows over the buildings. Quick flashes show streets torn apart, structures crumbling, and mysterious figures darting through dark alleyways. Chills, right? Today, we're diving into a mind-bending mashup that'll ignite your imagination. What happens when legends from two entirely different worlds collide? Yep, you guessed it. We're talking about the ultimate vampire hunter facing off against the king of monsters. Blade vs. Godzilla. Sounds wild? Absolutely. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's dive into this epic hypothetical showdown. Background of Godzilla. First up, let's get to know our colossal contender, Godzilla. Making his grand entrance in 1954, Godzilla emerged as a metaphor for nuclear destruction, a product of humanity's own doing. Born from nuclear radiation, he's a walking, roaring symbol of the consequences of messing with atomic power. While he started as a city-stomping menace, over the years, he's sometimes stepped into the role of a reluctant protector. Talk about character development. Now, let's chat powers. Godzilla's got that iconic atomic breath, a blazing blue beam that can decimate anything in its path. He's massive, towering over skyscrapers, and nearly indestructible. Bullets and missiles? Just minor annoyances to him. Plus, he's got a regenerative healing factor, so any damage he does take doesn't slow him down for long. Oh, and did I mention he's amphibious? Land or sea, he's a force to be reckoned with. Throughout his history, Godzilla has faced off against other giant monsters like King Ghidorah and Mothra, often acting as a balancing force in the ecosystem. He's not just a monster, he's a force of nature. Background of Blade. On the flip side, we have the legendary Daywalker himself, Blade. Blade, aka Eric Brooks, hit the scene in Marvel Comics back in 1973. His origin story is a wild one, born half human, half vampire after his mother was bitten during childbirth. This gives him all the strengths of vampires, like enhanced strength and senses, without most of their weaknesses. Sunlight? No problem for Blade. Driven by the desire to avenge his mother's death, Blade dedicates his life to hunting vampires. He's a master martial artist, weapons expert, and tactician. Armed with his signature silver sword, garlic-infused weapons, and UV gadgets, he's a one-man army against the undead. But it's not all steak through the hard action. Blade constantly battles his own vampiric urges. Imagine craving what you despise most. That internal struggle adds depth to his relentless quest to protect humanity. Setting the stage. So, how do these two titans from completely different universes cross paths? Picture a mysterious solar eclipse that defies all scientific explanations, or perhaps a rogue experiment tearing holes in the fabric of reality. Suddenly, portals begin opening between dimensions, causing chaos and confusion. Unusual seismic activities rattle cities, and there are whispers of massive creatures emerging from the depths. Meanwhile, Blade notices a spike in vampire activity. They're up to something big, and it doesn't bode well. Both Godzilla and Blade are drawn to these disturbances. Each, in their own way, begins investigating the anomalies. The stage is set for an encounter of epic proportions. Blade's investigation. Blade, ever the detective, dives headfirst into the mystery. He scours ancient texts and deciphers cryptic messages within the vampire underworld. Reports of a great awakening catch his attention. Not good. He interviews survivors who babble about a giant monster rising from the sea. While most dismiss these accounts as ravings, Blade knows there's usually truth hidden in madness. Realizing he's up against something unprecedented, Blade upgrades his arsenal. He consults with his trusted ally, Whistler, to develop new, more potent weapons. Armed to the teeth, Blade sets out to find the source of this new threat. Godzilla's emergence. Meanwhile, deep beneath the ocean's surface, Godzilla senses a disturbance. Drawn by the unnatural events, he rises from the depths. His emergence isn't exactly subtle. Massive waves crash against the shore, and the ground trembles with each step he takes. Panic ensues as coastal cities witness the colossal creature making landfall. The military scrambles, deploying everything they've got, tanks, jets, you name it. But history shows that conventional weapons are no match for Godzilla. Debates rage among leaders. Evacuate or engage. The first encounter. Blade arrives in a devastated city. The sight of toppled buildings and deserted streets doesn't faze him, but the massive footprints do. What kind of vampire leaves these? He wonders. He spots Godzilla in the distance, a towering behemoth unlike anything he's ever faced. Instinct screams, threat, and Blade readies himself. At the same time, Godzilla senses Blade's unique presence, a being not quite human. Their eyes meet for a brief moment. Tension crackles in the air. Blade decides that if this monster is causing harm, it's his job to stop it. The battle begins. Time for the showdown. Blade leaps into action. It's a classic David versus Goliath scenario. Using his agility, he dodges Godzilla's massive swipes and stomps. He fires specialized rounds, explosives, high-impact bullets, aiming for vulnerable spots. Blade targets the eyes and gills, hoping to find a weakness. Godzilla, irritated by this tiny nuisance, unleashes his atomic breath. Blade narrowly avoids the searing blast, his coat singed, but ego intact. Okay. Note to self. Avoid the blue beam, he quips. The city becomes their battleground. Blade uses the environment to his advantage, while Godzilla adapts to Blade's hit-and-run tactics. It's a chaotic dance of survival and strategy. Escalation of conflict. As if things aren't complicated enough, vampires emerge from the shadows, taking advantage of the chaos. They prey on panicked civilians, turning the city into a feeding ground. Blade now faces a tough choice: continue his assault on Godzilla or protect the people from the vampire menace. To make matters worse, the military's attacks on Godzilla are causing even more destruction. Realizing that Godzilla might not be the true enemy, Blade shifts his focus. He understands that there's a bigger picture, and the vampires are at the center of it. Revelation and alliance. Digging deeper, Blade uncovers the vampires' grand scheme. They've been manipulating events, aiming to control or eliminate Godzilla to remove any obstacles to their domination plans. The dimensional rifts and anomalies? All part of the vampires' plan to harness Godzilla's power. Blade hatches a risky idea. Instead of fighting Godzilla, he might need to team up with him. Using his tech, he sends signals to redirect Godzilla's attention toward the vampire stronghold. Surprisingly, Godzilla responds, turning his wrath toward the true villains. It's an uneasy alliance, but in desperate times, unconventional strategies are a must. The final confrontation. Now for the climax. Blade infiltrates the vampire's lair, cutting down any bloodsucker foolish enough to cross his path. His focus is razor sharp. Above ground, Godzilla unleashes devastation upon the vampire's operations. His atomic breath obliterates their defenses, thwarting their attempts to control him. Blade confronts the vampire leader, a formidable foe empowered by dark forces. An intense battle ensues, swords clashing and powers colliding. Just when it seems the vampire has the upper hand, Godzilla's attack destabilizes the lair. Seizing the moment, Blade delivers the decisive blow. The vampire leader disintegrates, their plan in ruins. Resolution. With the threat neutralized, Godzilla lets out a final roar and begins his retreat back to the ocean. The city's survivors watch in awe as the giant disappears beneath the waves. Blade surveys the aftermath. There's still work to be done. The vampire threat isn't over, but a major crisis has been averted. For a brief moment, there's a sense of mutual respect between the hunter and the monster. Both played a part in saving the world from a greater evil. Aftermath and implications. This encounter leaves Blade with plenty to ponder. He realizes that not all monsters are inherently evil. Sometimes, the enemy of his enemy can be, well, maybe not a friend, but an ally. It opens his eyes to a broader spectrum of threats and potential collaborations. The world is bigger and stranger than he ever imagined. Godzilla returns to his role as a guardian of balance. Humanity gains a newfound respect and healthy fear for the Titan. Theoretical analysis. Now, let's step back and ask, could this crossover actually happen? From a licensing standpoint, it's a tough sell. Godzilla belongs to Toho Company, and Blade is Marvel's property. Merging these universes would be a legal labyrinth. But hey, that's the beauty of imagination. Thematically, both characters tackle the concept of battling inner and outer demons and the gray areas between good and evil. Conclusion. And there you have it. A wild ride through a hypothetical clash between Blade and Godzilla. We explored their origins, imagined how their worlds could collide, and envisioned an epic battle with twists and alliances. At the end of the day, it's fascinating to see how different universes can intersect in our imaginations, creating stories that challenge and excite us. So, what do you think? Could Blade and Godzilla ever team up? Who else would you like to see in an unexpected crossover? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more fun explorations. Until next time, keep dreaming big and stay curious.